Welcome, I'm Mayor Phil Fisher, and this presentation is about the SBA loan process. But before we start, I want to thank Clintonians for adhering to the directions that have come down since the beginning of this coronavirus. Many of the actions the City of Clinton took 3 weeks ago are now being implemented throughout the state. And I appreciate your willingness as individuals and businesses to make the needed changes required to reduce the risk of spreading coronavirus. Your city remains fully engaged with all levels of government in the health department to assure you get the most up-to-date information available. If you're not receiving emails from the city, please go to clintonms.org and sign up. Now, back to today's purpose. We want to assure you fully understand and take advantage of the federal government's new guidelines to help you stay in business during this difficult time. With me today are T.J. McSparrow, Director of the Chamber of Commerce, Tara Lytle, Main Street Director, and Gabriel Prado, the city's Economic Development Director. Please feel free to ask any questions you have via the thread on this Facebook presentation. We will answer all your questions at the end. This presentation will be posted on the city webpage for future viewing, so if you know small business owners that are not viewing this now, let them know and they can view it at their convenience. So now I'll turn this over to Gabriel. Good luck.
Very well. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I want to start by thanking Mayor Phil Fisher for his strong leadership during this COVID-19 crisis. Through his efforts, we have been able to slow down the spread of this virus. So, really appreciate your leadership, Mayor. We're at a crucial point. Businesses are struggling. So the whole point of having you out here today is for you to understand what you need to do to go and get funds that will be forgiven. Businesses do not have an opportunity to survive another day. So before I get started with the presentation, I do want to emphasize this. Call your banker today. Today, not tomorrow. The funds that we're about to discuss will not be available for very long. They have a limit. If we run out of funds, any business that do not apply, they will not get any money. So it is crucial that you call your banker and ask them, how can I get in front? You cannot wait. This is a life or death situation for every business out there. Mark, will you do the next? You look at the slide that you have in front of you. We have to start with something very simple. Our formula of what you need to know of how much money you will get. This is called the SBA Paycheck Protection Plan. The loan amount will be calculated by your payroll, your monthly payroll, multiplied by 2.25 times. I'll say it one more time. Your monthly payroll multiplied by 2.25 times. So if you look at the slide, we have a small example for any business out there so that you can relate to how this will work. If business X has a monthly payroll of $10,000, what they need to do is they'll take the $10,000, multiply it 2.25 times, and that will be the total loan amount, which will come to $22,500. The funds, we'll get to it in a second. They officially don't open until tomorrow, April the 3rd. But every banker that you talk to, that can be your branch manager, that can be your commercial banker, your account manager, they all have 15, 20 applications already. So go out there, make the call today. What they're gonna ask you, very simple terms, is you're gonna need your application, which is in our website already, and you're gonna need payroll documentation. Those are the two key things among any other financials that the bank may require if you're a new customer. Those are the two key things that you need. Very simple. Your loan amount will be payroll times 2.25. So there are a lot of questions out there because we receive tons of information on what SBA is offering right now. So a lot of you might be confused into, well, there is the SBA emergency loan, and then there is the SBA PPP program or PPP loan. Why not go with the SBA emergency loan? The biggest difference why we're going to focus on the SBA PPP is because this money will be forgiven. You will not have to pay it back. Up to $10 million. Let me say that one more time. This money will be free for you. The SBA emergency disaster loan, you have to pay it back. So it's like a regular loan. And in the current situation that we have, where businesses are struggling because we have to close them given the COVID-19, you don't know where the future holds for you. So I would not advise you to get a loan right now that you have to pay back if you are able to secure funds that will be free for you. So if you look in the presentation, the slide that you have in front of you, one of the other big differences is the SBA emergency loan, you will have to apply at the SBA website directly. That will take a longer time. The biggest goal of the government to have it done through a lender, what does a lender, SBA lender mean? Is your regular bank. Their biggest goal of doing it that way is that you do it fast. That you do it through a commercial relationship that you can have at your branch or your commercial banker, so that it's way easier for you to access the funds. So I want to make it very clear, we're not sending you to apply for the SBA Emergency Disaster Fund. This is for the SBA PPP loan. This fund has about $349 billion. I know that it sounds like a lot, but that will go very quickly. Because the whole country, it's on a shutdown. Businesses are not open. So you have to think of this as a competition. You have to be the first one in the door to try to get these funds for you. The loan basically, or the biggest advantage of it is that it's forgiven. But how can you get it to be forgiven? There are two things that you have to do. Number one, you have to use it for payroll, interest, rent, or utilities. Number two, you have to maintain your payroll. What does this mean? With the current situation, a lot of businesses had to lay off people, or they were thinking about starting laying off people. Well, if you were going to fire someone, don't do it. There is money out there to cover their payroll expenses. If you have done it already, if you fire people, you still can apply for this loan, and you can use the total employment or payroll information that you have for your formula multiplied by 2.25, but you have to rehire them before June 30. If you have fired someone, you can still apply, but you have to rehire those people before June 30. So those are the two biggest conditions that you have to keep in mind that will allow you to get the money converted into a grant so that you don't have to pay it back to the bank. Very simple. When can you apply? Today. Call your banker today. I cannot stress it enough. You have to react to this emergency just like you have reacted to the rest of the emergency of COVID-19. If you're a business, it is not something that you can wait for the weekend, next week. Let's see how things turn out. Today. Call your banker today. Once that you call your banker, you technically have until June 30th to do the application, but most likely these funds will run out before you. So where are you going to apply? You go to your branch. If you have a commercial banker, you go to your commercial banker. If you don't have any kind of banking relationship, just call up the first bank that you can find. and ask them, I want to apply for the SBA PPP loan. The application is on our website already, and we have a one-pager that tells you step by step what you need to do. So who can apply? Any business that has less than 500 employees is eligible to apply for these funds. It doesn't matter if you are manufacturing, if you are a service provider, if you are an insurance agent. The only people that are exempt from applying is banking, pretty much. Now, even if you're a nail salon, a spa, or a restaurant, I encourage you, doesn't matter what kind of business you have, go out there and do it. And I do want to mention something because our restaurants are some of the ones that are feeling the most pain during this crisis. For any restaurant out there, it will be even better than most of the business because they can add not only to their current payroll, but any kind of tips or compensation that they give to their workers can be added to the formula. Remember that formula that we did? It's your payroll amount. On top of that, it's included anything tips, compensation related. It does have a cap, which is 100,000 on an annual basis. But most of our small and medium businesses will be way far below that cap. So what do you need to do to apply? It's very important to mention that the goal of the federal government to do this program is that it's very easy to get it and that you don't have to have a big financial strength to qualify for the loan. You do not need any collateral and you do not need any kind of personal guarantee. The two things that you will need is your PPP loan application and your payroll documentation. It's very simple. Now each lender might have its own other requirements, but that's going to depend on the lender itself. What the program is asking is only those two things, and it's the way that you can put your foot at the door and initiate the whole process. So how large can my loan be? Once again, it's your payroll times 2.25. Now it does have a cap of $10 million, but most of our businesses should not have an issue with because their payroll is lower than those $10 million. So the biggest question out there might be, okay, I went to the bank and I had a $100,000 loan. How much of that is going to be forgiven? All of it. 100%. Yes. The only reasons why your loan would not be forgiven is if you do not maintain your payroll or if you use the funds for anything else other than payroll, rent, utilities, or interest. So as long as you maintain your payroll during the 8-week period that you have the loan, and you utilize those funds for those specific things, rent, payroll, utilities, and interest, 100% of your loan will be forgiven. If you see in the top right of your screen, top left, there is a 2.5x. I put that in purpose there. The reason for it is the initial legislation that was put out said that it would be 2.5 times your payroll. But why are we giving you the modified formula for the loan amount that is in the new application? The reason is if you apply for 2.5 times your payroll, there will be a small portion that may not be forgiven out of your loan. But if you apply only for 2.25 times your payroll, and then you maintain your payroll expenses, you maintain all of your staff, and you utilize it for rent, utilities, interest, and payroll, then 100% of your loan will be forgiven. So how can you request this loan forgiveness? It's very simple. In the same way that you're going to call your banker today, then your banker is the one that is going to process that loan forgiveness. They will be required to give you within 60 days an answer if it will be forgiven or not. In order to do so, you're going to have to prove with documentation that you maintain your staff, that you made the payments on interest, rent, and utilities. That will be up to the lender to do the forgiveness, but they are required as long as you're able to prove all of these items that I just mentioned. So what is the interest rate on these loans that later on will become grants? 0.5 fixed interest rate. There's nothing out there in the market that can beat that right now. And it's very important to mention that this loan does not have the restrictions of other SBA loans that will require you to go and try to secure financing elsewhere before you come and apply here. It doesn't matter what your balance sheet look like. It doesn't matter what your financials look like. All it matters is you submit the application and you submit your payroll documentation. So when do you need to start paying the interest, or for that matter, anything related to the loan? You have a 6-month period that you have to make 0 payments. So since you're calling your banker today, it won't be until October that you have to make payments on the loan. This is very crucial because as we move forward into uncertainty, you will be sure of 2 things. Number 1, that you don't have to make any payments for the time being. And number 2, that as long as you maintain your staff and you utilize the funds for payroll, rent, utilities, and interest, 100% of your loan will be forgiven. So when would your loan due? This, if you don't get it forgiven, but we're going to secure that you do it by giving all the documentation required, it will be 2 years. That's the amount that it will be when your loan will be due. Now, as you see here, we have the same slide that we started. It's very simple. Crucial that you understand your loan amount is your payroll times 2.25. But why did we put this slide again? We cannot emphasize enough. We need you to call your banker today. Not tomorrow, call your banker today. The funds have a limit. As soon as they run out, nobody will get anything else. First come, first serve. And the biggest issue that we have is that those beloved small, medium businesses that are the backbone of our economy usually miss out on this kind of information. That's the whole point of our effort here. That's why the whole city is pushing. If you look at our Facebook page today, it's telling you this is a priority right now. Because just as we are fighting to stop this virus, doing every social distance, and Clintonians are a prime example of what social distance can do to slow the virus, just as important, we need you to call your banker today. Get this paper soon. There is no time. Call your banker today. Now what we want to do is take some questions from the live audience, and then if T or Tara have any questions that they have given already, we'll be glad to answer those.
Yes, we would like to encourage you to make some comments on the Facebook Live stream. TJ and I are monitoring that. We have seen a couple of questions that you have submitted already, and we'll be glad to ask those to Gabriel. A couple of things I just wanted to go back and ask specifically. I believe he's answered them, but I don't think it would hurt to reiterate this. Is does a business have to apply through their banker or SBA participating lender? Can they do it for themselves online?
Oh, that's a very good question, Tara. The answer is you have to go through your banker. Okay? And you're going to see that word a lot, SBA lender. What that means is 99% of the banks that you see on the street. Just call them up. You cannot do it on your own. You do not need to go to the SBA website. It has to be through the bank that the application needs to be done.
I do believe that you can get a list of those lenders on the SBA website,
But I will say that I know, Gabriel, you've done this, and I have too, reached out to all of our banks in town, and all of them have said that they will be participating.
Yes, and to that point, yes, you could go to the SBA website and look, but 99% of the banks are SBA approved.
Exactly.
And if they are not, they usually tag along through another bank to make the loan.
Mm-hmm.
So the most important action is to pick up the phone and call a bank. Yeah, that's a very good point.
Someone has asked, do you have to use 75% of the loan for payroll?
Very good question. So what Tara is referring right here, it goes back to our point. Initially, it had been said that you would get, and it gets a little complex into the numbers, but you would get 2.5 times your payroll, your monthly payroll. That would be your loan amount. So the intent was that you would cover during 8 weeks, twice your payroll, and then that 0.5 was for other expenses, such as rent, utilities, and interest. Well, since the release, what Terry is referring to is that most likely they'll be able to pay only 75% of those costs that are not associated with payroll. That's why we modified, and the SBA also modified the formula to do it 2.25. That means is, if you are able to prove, you should be able to get 100% forgiveness on the loan, on those expenses that are extra, because when you do the 0.25 extra, percentage-wise, other than your 2 times your payroll, that's the extra for rent, interest, and utilities that they put in.
I kind of have a two-pronged question that was just sent in. It said, if I've laid off an employee, but if I hire them back once I get the loan money, will that still be forgiven?
Yes, very good point. The answer is yes. If you lay off an employee, number one, you still need to count them when you do your payroll documentation. Even though that you haven't hired them back, you have until June 30th to hire them back. Yes? Number two, you do need to hire them back. Because when you apply for the loan forgiveness, they're going to ask you to prove the documentation that you have maintained your staff and that you have been paying them.
So there's my second question.
Yeah.
The other question, very similar to this one, was what if they don't come back? What if I can't hire them back?
No, if you don't hire them back, it's going to affect the amount that your loan will be forgiven. It's a very simple ratio. If you have 100% of employees back, you get 100% forgiven. If you get 80% of your payroll back, you get 80% forgiven out of that.
Okay, question. Explain further what it means to maintain employment during this time.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, there's a little bit of confusion. Some people, they may not have laid them off, but they cut their hours back during this, like, say, March 15th through March 30th time period.
Mm-hmm.
These are not, they've not been terminated.
Yeah.
But their hours have been cut back.
Yeah.
So they're still on the payroll.
Yeah.
Do they have to go back and pay them for this time that they were, their hours were cut back? And it's a two-part question too. And then going forward.
So let me answer that one first, because it's very important. It goes back to the numbers attached to your employees. So if you fire them and then you bring them back with less hours, if at the application time you put all of the hours that they were working before, you will have to continue with those hours with your employee. If you decrease them, it will decrease the amount that your loan will be forgiven.
Okay. Then the second part of that question was, okay, so going forward, since we're under executive order from the governor to shut down, do these employees have to be paid during the shutdown time?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So the whole point of this bill, of the CARES Act for small businesses, is to keep your payroll going. And to your question, yes, the point is that the business is able to pay its employees even if they are at home. Now, it will be the discretion, if your business is shut down, of how much work those employees can do at home. If it's a marketing person, they can work on social media, on some other things. But now, if it's somebody that manually does flowers or flower bouquets, that might be a little bit more complex, so it will be the discretion of the business to find other activities that can be done from home. Ultimately, if they cannot find any, but they do want to keep that employee on the payroll, that's what the loan is for. So they're able to pay them, keep them on the payroll while they are at home. And I want to touch on something here. I don't think we went over, because I know that this is for businesses, the PPP loan. But a big portion of the CARES Act is also going to be sending money directly to the families, direct deposits, or it's called tax rebates. You're going to get $1,200 per person, or $2,400 per couple. On top of that, you're going to get $500 per kid. Okay, so a family of 5 can be looking at almost $4,000. My place to you is you're going to have disposable income with that kind of money. If any business is doing online shipping, or if they're doing curbside or delivery, spend money. Now, follow the guidelines that have been presented, social distance and staying home. But if you can, through all the platforms online, spend money. Because just like we need our businesses in times that are good, they need us right now. We do need to prevail with those guidelines for social distance, staying at home. But if you can do anything online shopping, or if you can do any kind of ordering, do it.
On here, someone said, what if they did call their banker and they don't have the application? The application is on clintonmiss.org, or it's also on clintonchamber.org, or you can go to the SBA.gov as well. So the applications are out there.
Yeah, so very good point. I mean, I've been talking to businesses all day yesterday and the last couple of days, and one of the points of one of them was, well, I got everything ready, I just don't have the application. I said, here it is. Go to clintonms.org. We have it there. We have shared it with the chamber. We have shared it with Main Street. It's up there. We have a one-pager for you with every single point that we have covered here today. There's no excuse. Application and one-pager. We have every single thing that you need to be successful. Because just in times of bonanza doesn't mean that we won't support you now. We're going to make it through. And we are here for you, and the way to do it is provide you that information that is needed, that the bank might not have it. And maybe when you call your banker today, they might not even know what it is yet. Well, it doesn't matter. You still send them the application and the payroll information, because of what that will mean for you is you will be the first one that they have in front of them whenever they're ready to do it.
We had someone comment, I believe you covered this earlier, but let's go back and answer this question. They wanted to know, is the SBA loan, the PPP, the same as the emergency economic injury loans?
Mm-hmm. Very good. Very good question. We did talk about it, but it's very important to say it one more time. They are different. Number one, if somebody were to do both, you have to use them for different things. So if you use one for payroll, you cannot use the second one for the same thing. That being said, we're not advising at this precise moment to go do an SBA loan through the emergency disaster, because those loans are not going to be forgiven. You are going to have to pay them back. So at the moment, and the way that COVID-19 has developed, our advice is you need to go on SBA PPP loan, because those loans are going to be forgiven. And we could go into all of the details of the differences, how the disaster loan only has a $10,000 grant, or how it has a cap of $2 million. That's not the point, because the most important thing here is that you focus on the SBA PPP loan, because that money will be forgiven. It's not a loan, but it will become a grant.
Here, I can't find Chris's.
Okay, we've had a couple of bankers comment online, two different ones, and I'm going to try and find the original comment. Was Chris Collins with Bank Plus has said lenders are waiting for the guidance to be provided by the SBA. Everything in regards to the application and requirements is subject today. Need 2019 payroll, if not in business in 2019, used from January 1, 2020 to current. To determine average monthly, he says the 2.5 times 2 months payroll. and 0.5 for rent, interest, and utilities.
Very good point. So a couple of things on what the comment was. Number one, if you do the 2.5, what the U.S. Treasurer has said as of today is that there's a good chance that 0.25 might not be reimbursed back to you or forgiven because they won't have enough money. That's why to our Clinton businesses, we're giving you the formula of doing 2.25. And if you look at the application that is on the website of the U.S. Department of Treasury today, what they're advising is 2.25. The reason for that being that if not, the rest is going to be a loan. Number two, in the fact that a lot of the banks might not have the guidance today, yes, that's exactly what we just said to all of you. Even if your banker doesn't know, you want to go ahead, go to our website, get the application, get your payroll information together, and get it to your banker. He might say today that they don't have the guidance because officially it doesn't open until tomorrow. What we're doing for all of our businesses in Clinton is getting ahead of the game. We want to be ahead. This is like a competition once again. If you don't get there first, the funds are going to run out. So every business, every large business, their CFO, their CPA, are having all the paperwork ready as we speak. You do not want to be last. Call your banker today.
Well, I really just have, it's more of a comment. We talked about, small businesses are really defined as anything of 500 employees or less.
Mm-hmm.
This particular PPP program will also reach out to your sole practitioners, your independent contractors, and so the small businesses and the sole practitioners, I believe, can apply tomorrow, and the independent contractors on April the 10th.
Okay, and to that comment, while she's right, I will go back to my same point.
Still do it, yes.
Even if you are a sole proprietor, a sole practitioner, a self-contractor, yes, it might not be open until 4 or 5 days. Do not wait.
No.
There's no time for you to wait and be the last. Because what's going to happen if you wait for all of that, the banks or whatever bank you reach out, they're going to have tons of applications in front of you. Just go ahead and take advantage of this information that many other cities might not be putting out with the urgency that we're doing. Do it today. Call your banker today.
Absolutely.
Okay, another question, someone has asked about what forms of documentation that will be required.
Yes, very good point. So while the lenders might have different aspects of documents per se, if you don't have any business with them, the most important things are two things. Your application, which the whole package is on our website, clintonms.org, and your payroll documentation. Yes? Excuse me. There might be some other things that the banker might ask you. Fantastic. You comply with whatever they need because it's the banker's decision to approve it. But you do need to start with that. Those are the two crucial things that you need to get to them.
Okay, I got one more question. I don't know if we'll know the answer to this one. We're
We'll know.
going to try and trip you up here. What utilities are covered? Specifically, what utilities are covered? Specifically, are phone and internet covered in this?
That's a very good question. So the way that the government is putting this out is relying on self-audit. What does that mean? When you fill out the form, you're going to sign an affidavit saying that everything that you submit is accurate. So it's really going to be up to you, but the utilities that are covered is what the business would use as normal. Your electricity, your gas, your phone, those kind of things. Now, different bankers are going to have different parameters, and they might come back and say, well, we don't cover this for you. That'll be up to the banker to do it. But it's your self-audit. What your CPA tells you that is utilities, you're able to include here.
Okay, a couple of people are asking where they can find the application, so let's give them our website. They can find it at clintonms.org/PPP.
Yeah, clintonms.org. clintonms.org. Okay, go to our website. It's gonna be, and if it's not today, we're gonna make sure that it's pinned in the front of the page today, because the next 3 days are gonna be crucial for you to find it. But we have it there. Our incredible communications team has made a special section in the economic development part about SBA PPP, and you can find there the application and the one pager of every single question. Once again, clintonms.org dash PPP.
I don't see any more questions.
The only other question that got sent in to me was about unemployment insurance.
Yeah.
And I did ask a CPA today to kind of clarify that. And I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So the CARES Act covers several things. Three major things is for individuals, which unemployment is covered under there. Then the PPP, and then for larger businesses such as the Boeing and all of those bigger ones. Let's touch on that unemployment part. Unemployment, basically what they did is, through the CARES Act, they passed an extra $600 that you would get on top of your state fund, on your state normal unemployment. So usually if a person would get $366 or close to $400 for unemployment, now they're gonna get an extra $600. They also extended the amount of weeks that they would get that for. So yes, you're gonna get more money through the Federal CARES Act for the next 8 weeks or so. It's gonna be an extra $600 on top of what you get right now. There is an expectation that there might be a second phase of this bill, but as of right now, that's where it is. Another question was presented to that, let's say you're getting unemployment and you do work a couple of hours, well, that's gonna be determined by each state. So in the state of Mississippi, depending how many hours you're allowed to work to get unemployment or not, that's where it's being directed also to the CARES Act and the extra $600 that you're gonna get.
But the $600 only goes through July the 30th,
Yeah.
which is a 4-month extension. It will not continue after that.
Yeah,
unless
as of right now.
As of right now.
Unless they
Correct.
pass a second phase of the bill.
And then there's an additional 13 weeks added onto a 26-week that you are
That's
eligible.
correct, yeah.
But if you furlough someone and you bring them back to work, then it still can apply for this loan, for the PPP loan,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah,
that's-
but it's, once again, a lot of that is gonna have to do with the timing. So if you think about it, if you start applying today, calling your banker today, get the application in, it might take a couple of weeks for you to get the funds. That doesn't mean the state treasurer, he did say, the secretary of treasury, he did say he wanted the funds to go out in 1 day, but that's very complex for banks to do it. So the fact that you're gonna be applying for or calling your banker today, that does not mean that you're gonna get your money Monday. Most likely it will take a week or two, or you might get 3 weeks for you to get that money. I say all that to say, to TJ's comment is, you will have some time to rehire that people. Yes? But do keep in mind that by the time that you apply for that forgiveness, you're gonna have to prove that you spend that money for payroll. So if you don't, you cannot go to the bank on Friday and say, okay, I hired all of them back Thursday, I need to get my forgiveness. Because you're not gonna have paid them if you didn't hire them. So you have to have paid them for those 8 weeks in order to apply for that forgiveness. So while you do have until June 30th to rehire them back, you have to be very careful on how you do it, because the whole point of this bill is that businesses are able to hire back their people and pay them through the crisis.
Okay, I've got a question from somebody that submitted online. They want to know, can the owner's pay be included in the PPP loan?
Yes, the answer is yes. Any kind of wages, compensation, contractors, tips, with a cap of $100,000 per year can be included in that formula that we gave you. Your payroll times 2.25. Can we have another question?
Yes, one more question. This could be in the weeds a little bit, but having to do with figuring that payroll, can part-time employee salary be counted in that total? And I would say the answer is yes, but there's an explanation where it says or full-time equivalent.
Mhm.
So can you expand on that just a little bit?
Yes, that's a very good question. So at the end of the day, it's gonna be equally to what your actual payment is. So the calculation that you may have, I mean, you can get in different formulas. Well, would that be equivalent to X amount in full time? But the reality is that when you go and apply for your loan forgiveness, you are gonna have to take the actual paperwork where you pay that money and how much money went out is what is going to be forgiven to you. I say all that to say that if you were to take them as part-time employees, but then you apply as a full-time, whenever you apply for your forgiveness, the actual amount that you pay is gonna be smaller, which is gonna be that amount you're gonna have to pay back. It won't be forgiven if you don't actually pay it.
Well, TJ, I'm not seeing too many more questions. I don't know if we'll wrap it up here in a few minutes, or if you want to give them a few more minutes to get in last questions. I would think that it's important that we remind people that this live stream is going to be posted on our a link to it on the website, on our Facebook page. So if you missed any information there, you can replay it, or you can email me, Gabriel, TJ. We will do our best to get this information answered. Anyway, but if y'all have a few last minute questions, we'll try and get into it as you can.
And just like Tara said, during these crucial times, make sure to reach out to us. Go to our city's website, clintonms.org. Our information is there. My cell phone number is 601-291-8275. 601-291-8275. Call me Sunday at 3 a.m. It doesn't matter. These times need the urgency that we have. You can reach out because we're here for you, to help you. And that's what the Department of Economic Development for the City of Clinton is doing for all of the businesses. And all of those that are going to be coming later, because they belong in Clinton. It's the best city in the state, and we're going to continue to do what we need to make it through these tough times. Thank you all.